On today's show, Steph Curry and the Warriors stun the best team in the NBA as they beat SGA and the Thunder. Jalen Brunson and the Knicks completely outworking the Nuggets. Things get real chippy between the Pistons, Pacers, the Wolves, and Suns, and so much more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every single night. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. And joining me is my partner in crime from Locked On Heat, David Ramil. David, what'd you see in the NBA last night?
A lot of great action, a lot of great games, monster performances, and a lot of things heating up before the trade deadline. I'm sure we'll hint on a few of them before we talk about every game tonight.
An 11-game slate to work through. We're going to tag every single one of them across our episode here today. First, we want to thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. And we're going to go out to the Bay Area first, where the Golden State Warriors stunning the best team in the NBA. Let's throw it out to Locked On Thunder for more.
After not scoring 50 points in his entire NBA career until last week, SGA has scored 50 points twice this week, doing it again in this loss to Golden State, where the Thunder blew a 14-point lead, but that 50-point night won't be as celebrated because we're too busy talking about the Thunder dropping one they should have won, the Warriors' second night of a back-to-back, no Draymond, no Kuminga, and Oklahoma City was healthy. I mean, for their senses, they didn't have Chet, they didn't have Topic, they didn't have AJ Mitchell, but those guys have long-term injuries. So of who you realistically could have available, you had all your guys and you could not win this game. And the common thread in all these losses, no matter how seldom they come for Oklahoma City this season, has been the inability to get consistent offense outside of from SGA. Your role players cannot hit big shots dating back to the last series against Dallas consistently enough to where if they're not hitting and the teams are able to blitz and trap and play more aggressively with Shai, it really can unravel the Thunder's offense, which also struggles mightily against zone, which teams are going to more against Oklahoma City.
To Ryland's point, David, I mean, that's exactly what happened late in this game. From how it felt early on, right? I mean, SGA by himself outscored the Warriors in that first quarter. SGA had 21, the Warriors only had 20 in the first quarter, and then he had 31 points at halftime. Thunder were up 14, and they just watched that lead slowly whittle away because SGA went scoreless for the first 6 minutes of the third quarter before he finally found his rhythm and started racking up some more points. And then it was tied up 84 all going into the final frame. But then same thing happened again. SGA was scoreless for the first 6 minutes of that fourth quarter. And then by the time he did start finding his offense again, the Warriors kind of just realized if we make it SGA or bust, right? If we collapse the paint and we force SGA to beat us, the other guys are going to have to step up and nobody could hit shots. You had a brief little 7-0 run from Jalen Williams there at the very end, but it was almost too little too late at that point. And on the opposite side, the Warriors had so many different guys stepping up, hitting big shots down the stretch. They survived. They weathered the non-Curry minutes when Steve Kerr had to rest Steph Curry there in the fourth quarter while SGA just played through the entire fourth.
Yeah, you take away SGA's stat line and the rest of the team goes 24 of 70. That's just 34%. That's not going to get it done. And, you it's a sound strategy, and it works sometimes when you have a superstar of SGA's caliber, perhaps the best player in the league this season, and you could just allow him to go off. But if you could shut down everybody else or at least keep them from being effective, it leads to a great win. You get some big performances down the stretch. Steph obviously stepping up, hitting some big shots. It was a fantastic game. I'll go even a step further, though. This is the win, though, that for the Golden State Warriors might show them that they need to go after a player like Jimmy Butler because they're not as dead in the water as you might expect them to be. There's enough talent on this team. Again, second night of a back-to-back, as Ryland pointed out, no Draymond. You're missing some guys there. You acquire a player like maybe, I don't know, say Jimmy Butler, and all of a sudden your championship window opens right up again.
I can't wait for you to soft piss Jimmy Butler to every team we talk about tonight. Just trying to get the sale to happen here at some point during this podcast.
Get it done.
Hey man, look, I mean the Warriors are not that far off, right? And look, this is also the Warriors now become just the second team in the NBA this season to beat the Thunder multiple times. The Dallas Mavericks have done it 3 times. Warriors have done it now twice. So there's something there. Like this Warriors team isn't nothing. So you're right. Maybe this is the bat signal to, hey, go get Steph some help, and you can maybe have one last thing at making a significant title push here this postseason. But let's throw it out to our next game of the evening. The New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson and the Knicks just absolutely outworking the Denver Nuggets at Madison Square Garden. Let's go out to Locked On Knicks for more.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Gavin Shaw, the Locked On Knicks podcast, following a 122-112 victory for the New York Knicks over the Denver Nuggets. That caps off perhaps their most dominant 3-game stretch of the season. Offensively, might just be one of the most dominant 3-game stretches in franchise history. This is the most points they've ever scored in 3 straight games in about 70 years of Knicks basketball. Pretty incredible. Jalen Brunson was the hero tonight. 13 points, 15 assists, 10 of 16 from the field, 7 of 7 from the foul line, 3 of 6 from 3. I don't even know if those stats do him justice. Denver threw everyone at him, and he just cooked them all. Like his ability to manipulate pace, to finish through traffic, to just spoon feed guys for easy shots because of how much attention he was drawing. It was as good as he's played all year. You could just about say the same for OG Anunoby, who's been on a heater since the Knicks had 3 days off. His defense in the third quarter changed the tenor of this game after Denver had a 15-3 run to get back into it. The Knicks are playing their best basketball of the season. They're finally looking like the championship contender they were built to be.
Minor clerical error there. Brunson had 30, not 13 points, so a 30 and 15 performance for him. I think Gavin was just getting a little excited about the numbers there, but an absolutely insane performance from Brunson. I don't know if he's easily one of the best players in the NBA at putting a defender on his hip and then just keeping him in that little like jail cell, right? That pocket behind him, and then just manipulating, figuring out whatever he wants to do with the defense, whether it's score, whether it's, facilitate, dish. He had so many clean assists in this game, David. And then elsewhere for the Knicks, I mean, they had a monster night from OG Anunoby, 23 points, 9 of 15 shooting for him. Josh Hart came up big, had so many big buckets, recovering loose balls, defensive plays. And on the Nuggets side, like this was one of the most disappointing games I think I've seen in recent memory from Nikola Jokić. He looked so unmotivated and disinterested in this game after he got some early foul trouble. He picked up 2 quick fouls, and basically he only played 9 minutes in the first half, which was a season low, the lowest number of minutes he's ever played in a half this season. And he just didn't really look motivated, even though the Nuggets were very much in this game despite losing their best player for pretty much the entire first half.
Yeah, that's a good point. Look, you don't want to take anything away from the Knicks. As Gavin said, they did look great. Brunson in particular looked phenomenal, and OG contributed at a high level too. But the Denver Nuggets are struggling right now. Defensively, they've been really piss poor over the last few games. They've lost 3 in a row now. They just can't seem to figure things out. And while they were still close, to their credit, they were still good enough to at least stay in contention there late in the game.
They got playoff Jamal Murray, that's why.
That's all right. That's absolutely right. They got a big performance from Murray. But yeah, to your point, Jokic did not look like he had any kind of rhythm at any point throughout the game. Like he's still going to be playing at a high level because he's in the MVP and he's a great player. But at the same time, like he just didn't have the same kind of oomph that he had in past games. And I don't know if something's eating at him or if the road trip is just kind of wearing away at him. They don't have the mile high advantage that they normally do at home either. So that's got to be a factor.
I also want to give a little bit of credit to Karl-Anthony Towns here in this one. He didn't have, the kind of monster offensive performance you've been accustomed to seeing from him in a Knicks jersey. But one thing that he did do was defend Jokic incredibly well. I'll go so far as to say I think Cat is individually the best one-on-one defender in the entire NBA when it comes to holding Nikola Jokic. You saw it last year in the playoff series against the Nuggets. I thought he defended him better than Gobert for sure for that Wolves series. And there's something about Town has size, right? He's not a traditional rim protector in the sense that he doesn't guard above the rim, I guess, but Jokic doesn't play above the rim, right? That's not his play style. So I do think that from a matchup perspective, Cat actually matches up with Jokic incredibly well out of any of the other bigs in the NBA.
I might have a little favoritism with Bam Adebayo. He's allowed to be a little bit more physical with a guy like Jokic, but I can see your point, though. I think Towns does a phenomenal job. Does match up very well. He's skilled. He moves his feet quickly enough, and he can challenge him, use his hands to be a little physical, and kind of just bump him off his spots a little bit. So it's a great point. I'm glad you called it out.
Coming up, lots of chippy games on the slate with technicals and ejections as Pacers stars Siakam and Haliburton go off against the Pistons and Anthony Edwards and the Wolves overcome some officiating woes against the Phoenix Suns. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Look, taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, and no more worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. And continuing on here at Locked On NBA Game Night, where we thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On show for your favorite team. Maybe it's Locked On Heat with David Ramil. Maybe it's Locked On Rockets. Come hang out with me over there. Third best team in the NBA now. I'm enjoying it so much, David. The Rockets are so good. We had years of mediocrity, and I'm enjoying covering a good team now. All right, let's get to our next game here on the docket. The Indiana Pacers star duo showing out against the Detroit Pistons. Let's go out to Locked On Pacers for more.
Tony East here with Locked On Pacers in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where the Pacers just dispatched the Detroit Pistons, a double-digit win for the Pacers on the backs of their stars. The large picture story of this game, the chippiness. Whew. Isaiah Stewart ejected in less than 10 minutes of play. Texts flying all night for Pistons players, for Pacers players. A carryover from their last two games against each other. But the Pacers won this game because their stars were awesome. Pascal Siakam, 37 points. That is his most as a Pacer, his first 30-point game this season, much to his surprise. He's been working hard in that practice court back there where they practice every day. And Tyrese Haliburton, exceptional as well, 30 points for him. They were both terrific in a night where the Pacers needed them to be great. The ball handling missing Andrew Nembhard and Ben Mathurin. They stepped up and got it done. Pacers 26-20, best record in the East for the month of January, climbing the standings very close to fourth. We'll have much more on this win and the Pacers stars going crazy just before all stars are announced on Locked On Pacers.
First off, it sounds like Tony also played in the game. He was a little out of breath there walking through Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Miles Turner also added 24 points on 5 of 10 shooting. He was 10 of 12 at the free throw line. And TJ McConnell was huge off the Pacers bench. He had 14 points. At one point, he was perfect shooting from the floor. If there was like an all-NBA like reserves team, I feel like TJ McConnell might have to make the cut. Just
don't get me started.
He's incredible.
He fans, and I talked to Tony about this a lot of times. Like every team feels like TJ McConnell burns them. It's just because he's found a way to have one big performance, and he's, you don't expect it from a guy like TJ McConnell, but somehow he just finds a way to get off that little pull-up mid-range jumper, and just next thing you know, he's got 15 points and your team is losing. So, but listen, the Pacers, what a fantastic story. It doesn't seem like that long ago we were kind of writing off this team and going, what the hell's going on with Tyrese Haliburton? Nobody knew how to explain the drop-off that just weren't meshing well. We didn't know changes were happening, or maybe, I don't know, something drastic might have to happen with this team. They seem to have righted the ship 8-2 over the last 10 games. They look like a phenomenal team and as dangerous as they ever did last year, maybe even better than they did last year when they were catching teams off guard. Now, without that element of surprise, they're still finding ways to win. This is a dangerous team. I'm bullish on them. I think they have a chance to advance deep in the playoffs. We'll see how it progresses, and maybe it has to be a little bit more consistent, but for now, they're playing phenomenally.
Great call. Look, they've got shooting. They've got great athletes. They've got star power. They've got everything you need to succeed at the highest level in the NBA. And they've been there, right? They went to Eastern Conference Finals, right? And maybe you call it a fluke run, whatever, but they have the talent to do it. And they're still not healthy either. They're still missing two really big pieces. No Benedict Mathurin, who was out in this game. No Andrew Nembhard, right? So, when this Pacers team is full and healthy and has all their moving parts, they are going to be a dangerous team that you don't want to run into in the postseason. And like Tony said, this was a very chippy game. Beef Stew was just, I don't know what came over him. The fact that he decided to just throw a shoulder who was it against?
Thomas Bryant.
There we go. Thomas Bryant. There we go. I apologize. I was like sifting for it in my notes, but just like walked up behind him and just like chucked a shoulder into him and then acted like he didn't do it. And of course that was clearly flagrant too, like non-basketball, like above the shoulder, all that stuff. And then the chippiness continued later in the game. Like there were texts going everywhere. And these two teams just do not like each other very much. And honestly, I wish we had more of that in the NBA. I love it when things get chippy. I love it when teams have like this, like, animosity towards each other. It makes these games feel a little bit more exciting. Like there's a little bit more kind of FU in some of the play, which is fun.
I know it's not going to happen because mathematically, statistically, it just doesn't seem very likely. But if these two teams matched up in the postseason, would there be fireworks? That would be awesome.
You know, there are a pair of teams that could match up in the postseason, maybe in the play-in tournament, albeit. But the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns, that's the next game we're going to talk about here. Let's throw it out to Locked On Wolves for more.
Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Phoenix Suns by 8 points on Wednesday night to get their 4th win in a row and move to 5 games above 500 for the first time this year. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Wolves podcast. This game had a little bit of everything. Anthony Edwards had 33, 7, and 5, and he added 4 blocks in this game. He also turned it over 7 times. Like I said, a little bit of everything. Julius Randle had 28, 7, and 6, and the Wolves got 23 points from Nikhil Walker off the bench in a game that Naz Reid missed due to illness. They also got great minutes from Jalen Clark, the rookie who missed all of last season with the torn Achilles, played 10 minutes, the first rotation minutes of his career. Rob Dillingham was good in 15 minutes, and we also saw a Chris Finch ejection for the first time in the Wolves head coach's career. It was one of the worst officiated games, probably the worst officiated Wolves game of the year. And it was a little bit of everything, a really fun game. The Wolves came back from a halftime deficit and ultimately win this thing. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
Look, as an unbiased third party here, David, I got to completely agree with Ben. Like the officiating in this game was awful. I usually don't like talking about officiating, but like there were just some blown and it was bad officiating both ways. It wasn't just against the Wolves. Like there was just some bad call. Like sometimes the refs are just completely off their game. Like there were some blown calls even at the end of this one, like a very blatantly like kicked ball by Grayson Allen that resulted in a free layup for the a free layup for the Suns that kind of helped them have their fake pseudo comeback there in the fourth quarter. On the Phoenix side of things, KD with 33 points, 13 of 19 shooting from the floor, and then Devin Booker adding 28 points on 19 shots. And off the bench, they had Bradley Beal with 17 points on 6 of 10 shooting, clearly getting ready to be traded somewhere. We don't know where yet, but look, this was a game with a little bit of frustration on the Wolves side, but this is also very clearly like a matchup as these two teams are sitting in the 7-8 spots in the Western Conference. This is maybe a potential playoff preview, or I should say play-in tournament preview between these two squads. Who do you like more about kind of where these two teams are sitting right now in the West?
Oh, this is... Both teams are so flawed at this point. Like Minnesota, they came off that great run last year, but with the trade and then Randall, like a game like tonight, it's hard to kind of pick holes in his game because he was so effective and he was such an offensive powerhouse. But it's, you kind of live and die by that particular sword. And unfortunately, you're going to get cut more often than not. And so I don't know. I can't believe in the Timberwolves, but look at the Suns. Unless they're a trade away, and again, I don't want to mention Butler, but I mean, some kind of other trade down the road in order to improve this roster. They're just not getting production from anybody else other than their big three. And that's just unfortunate because, they've assembled this team. They had high hopes and high expectations. They just haven't been able to live up to that potential. So between the two of them, I guess give me the Timberwolves because you never know. Julius Randle might go off for 2 of the whatever 7-game series you might play.
All right, I'll take that. I tried to bait you into doing some more Jimmy Butler talk, and it didn't quite work out. So you dodged my trap. All right, let's get out. You told me not to. You told me not to bring it up anymore. Let's get out to our next game. We got the Clippers getting the win against the Spurs. Let's throw it to Locked On Spurs.
First of Locked On Spurs. San Antonio Spurs lose one at home, 128-116 versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Pretty much the story of the season. You're competitive in one half. You're not competitive in the second half. That happened again. Spurs had no answer for the Clippers in the second half, getting outscored 34-24 in the final frame. The Clippers led the game by a whopping 31 minutes. Other thing that's happening with the Spurs recently in their losing ways of late is getting out-rebounding. They got out-rebounded. It was not even close. Even with Victor Wembanyama manning the paint, the Spurs get out-rebounded 57-30. You don't show up in the second half, You take your foot off the gas pedal when you were at least up. You lose the rebounding edge, as we just mentioned right now. What do you expect? This team has not been showing that they can play 48 minutes of basketball. They play about two and a half, and I'm being generous. Yeah, Spurs lose.
Look, this is, I mean, first off, that rebounding deficit is pretty absurd. Now, a large reason for that is Zubac was absolutely unreal with a 2020 game for the Clippers in this one. 21 points, 22 rebounds. And apparently this is the first time since all the way back, I believe it was early March 2020, that the Clippers have had 4 different players score 20 plus in the same game. So Kawhi with 27, Zubac with 21, Harden with 21, and then Norm Powell with 27 to lead the way for the Clippers. I'm curious, David. I don't know what the Spurs are trying to do here, because I kind of thought by bringing in CP3 and Harrison Barnes, the goal was going to be, okay, you're the veteran kind of stewards for these young guys, whatever. But you look up, and in crunch time of this game, at one point, they had all 5 young guys out there. There was no CP3, there was no Harrison Barnes, and I was kind of questioning, I understand you want to get these young guys developmental runway, you want to get them experience, but I kind of expected this Spurs team to kind of do what the Rockets did last season, which is, lean on the veterans in those moments, right, to help teach the young guys how to win. But they're kind of doing it like trial by fire, just go out there and figure it out. And maybe things would be done a little bit differently if Greg Popovich was, still actively in the picture, what have you, but I don't know. I was a little confused at some of the decision making at the end of this game, I'll say.
Internally, I mean, despite the talk that they're linked to De'Aaron Fox in a potential trade or something that might happen there, I don't know that I view this team, and I don't know if they view themselves internally as a playoff team. Right now, they're 10th in the East of the Western Conference, 12th in the Western Conference. They're about 3.5 games out of the 10th spot for the play-in tournament there. They probably have exceeded expectations. I know they were those records fluctuate all the time and their standings fluctuate quite a bit, but I don't know if they're still that kind of team that you could say they're a lock for a playoff seed. And that being the case, the goal is still to improve and develop your young players so that they can continue to be, as you said, experience the trial by fire and continue to grow in that regard. So I think it's the right strategy. But you're kind of in this weird in-between spot, because while you do have those vets on this team, they're probably playing better or have achieved more than they expected to. And so there's no real need to kind of have them out on the floor in these moments, because the long-term goal is probably, you're not going to really accomplish anything. Even if they do get in a play-in spot, they're probably not going to be able to advance in the playoffs. I wouldn't count on them being able to win a series. So what are you really playing for here? It's all about the future.
Coming up, the Mavs beat the Pelicans in a game that really didn't need to go down to the wire. The Wizards hit 15 losses in a row again this season. Could the Toronto Raptors sneak into the play-in tournament this year? And are we buying Philly's little 4-game win streak? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, attending playoff games is an unforgettable experience that truly brings fans together. I still remember every single Rockets playoff game that I've attended in my life, going and seeing peak James Harden go toe-to-toe with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors, even though they never really came out on top. But just the excitement, the energy of a playoff atmosphere, it's truly like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks to help you get some playoff tickets later on this season. Makes getting tickets for events so easy. It filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different ticketing offers. Earlier this month, I was using Game Time to find myself some Rockets tickets to go to a game with some friends, and ultimately, it's so easy to navigate the app. You can find great value on all kinds of different seats, whether you want to go, upper bowl, lower bowl, whatever you're looking for. The super deal was really impressive, offering the best value for the, best bang for your buck, basically. The app's features like seat views before you buy and all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout makes the experience so smooth and reliable. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gives you absolute peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's get through our final 6 games of our 11-game slate here. Our final segment where we play shoot, drive, pass. Shoot if you have a take, drive if you want to ask a question about a game, and pass if there's really not much more to add to the final box score. Let's go to our first game here on the docket. Cavs get the 126-106 win against your Miami Heat, David. Let's walk through it. Shoot, drive, pass. What you got for me?
I'm going to shoot, and I'm going to deliver a scorching hot take. The Cavs are really good, and they're just fine. Like, everybody was writing their eulogy because they've struggled of late and they've lost a few games. Sorry.
Who did they lose a couple games to? I just want to. Who is that?
It doesn't matter. The point being that it was so overblown. It was ridiculous that they couldn't keep up the historic winning record pace like that. It was so silly. And they're still a damn good team. No Darius Garland tonight. No Dean Wade. So you're out 2 starters, 2 key contributors, and you still mollywop the heck out of the Miami Heat, who are struggling obviously and trying to figure things out. But they're really good, really balanced. Great performance from Donovan Mitchell. He was phenomenal tonight. It just seemed like he had renewed energy and a reason to want to beat this Miami Heat team. After the last time they faced each other, Miami managed to escape with a win there. And, they beat them pretty handily at that point in time. Cleveland returned the favor today.
Let's get out to our next game where Mavericks Pelicans seemingly goes down to the wire all the time. Let's throw out to Locked On Mavs for more.
Okay. All right. They eked through that one. The Dallas Mavericks get a win against the Pelicans in a game that was way too close for comfort. 19 team turnovers for the Dallas Mavericks. The Pelicans turned into 27 points. Just awful decisions. The Mavs couldn't dribble against the Pelicans a bunch of times. Zion got a bunch of deflections. It was just a tough game for the Mavericks. Ball handlers in this one. But PJ Washington did so many things well in this game. 25 points, 14 boards, 8 assists, a career high for him. And he did have 5 turnovers, 4 of them in the first half, meaning he only had 1 in the second half. He was doing so many things for this team. He tried to contain Zion Williamson. He tried his best, but it wasn't enough to contain him. He did funnel him to Gafford, but that was a struggle for him all night as well. Daniel Gafford, another huge game against the Pelicans. 22 points, 12 boards, 3 assists, 5 blocks. For Daniel Gafford in this one. He showed up in a really big way when the Mavs needed him. And you got 17 points and a huge defensive play from Quentin Grimes late in the stretch. A win for Dallas. A win is a win.
On the Pel side of things, here's Zion Williamson with 29 points, 11 of 18 shooting from the floor. Trey Murphy adding 32 points. He had a pair of alley-oop dunks just before halftime, and it kind of felt like, okay, maybe the Pels got some energy, some juice in this game. Ultimately wasn't enough. What you got for me, David? Shoot, drive, pass.
I'm going to pass. Love Nick, but I can't believe he pointed out a defensive possession in a game where they scored a combined 290 points practically. Like, it's ridiculous. These two teams are a mash unit, unhealthy. You can't take anything away from this game, seriously. It was a great win for Dallas, I guess, or a win, as Nick pointed out, but there's not much to take away from it.
All right, let's get to our next game of the night. Toronto Raptors handling business in a blowout of the Washington Wizards, who now hit their second 15-game losing streak within this singular season. That's some impressive tanking by the Wizards, but let's throw it out to Locked On Raptors for more.
Raptors might mess around and accidentally get into the play-in. Sean Bully here from Locked On Raptors. Quick thoughts on the Raptors. 106-82 win over the really horrible, no good Washington Wizards. Not really much to take away from this game, as it was the Toronto Raptors against not an NBA team. Nice stuff from Scotty Barnes, 24, 4-4, continues his really nice run. But overall, this was just the Raptors kind of taking care of business, which is what good teams do against bad teams. Are we calling the Raptors good? I don't think we can. They're 15-32, but they have won 5 in a row and 7 of their last 8 and have looked pretty darn good doing it. They'll have a tougher schedule coming up very soon here, but they're also very much already in the play-in conversation. The Chicago Bulls, at the time of me recording this, are about to lose to Boston, it seems, which means the Raptors could be 4.5 games out of the play-in by the end of tonight. Kind of crazy, considering they started the season 9-31. I don't know what's going on, but they're winning, and it's fun, and it might end soon, but I'm having a great time for now, and so seemingly are the Toronto Raptors.
All right, David, I'm gonna steer the bus on this one. I'm gonna drive for this one. Do we buy the Toronto Raptors making the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference?
Yes, actually, I'm looking at it and thinking about it ever since we started talking about it before the show. I'm actually starting to believe it's possible because with Atlanta Hawks losing Jalen Johnson for a season-ending injury and the Philadelphia 76ers being, who knows what they are, the Chicago Bulls, they're probably going to start losing games soon. Why not? Let's give the Toronto Raptors a chance. Why not? They're rebuilding season, although they might be involved in some trade talks, maybe for Jimmy Butler. Who knows? They could be one of those teams facilitating a deal for Butler. And if that's the case, maybe they're kind of punting on the season a little bit too soon. And it'll all be worth it to see what short video Sean sends us because he's been the highlight of the season so far.
You know what? I'll take it because I'm 2 for 3 on getting you to mention Jimmy Butler. So I'll take 2 for 3. You dodged it in the second segment. All right, let's get out to an actual good team that did take care of business against a bad team. Celtics getting the win against the Bulls. Let's throw it out to Locked On Celtics.
It was nice to get a nice, boring win for the Boston Celtics, 122-100. They shot 40% from 3. There was no drama. There were no weird plays. No random guy from Chicago went off for 30 points. It was just a nice, easy win. The Celtics broke it open in the second quarter, and they cruised from there. Career shooting night from Kristaps Porzingis certainly helps. 8 3-pointers, ties a career high. It was just, like I said, an easy win against an undermanned Chicago team that isn't that great to begin with. So it's exactly what you expect from a Boston Celtics team to beat Chicago like this. Now, what do we expect after this? Who knows? Celtics hit the road to face the Pelicans and Philly and Cleveland.
I'm sorry, John. I don't care about Pelicans and Philly and the rest of the Celtics. Just Celtics are a good team. Shoot, drive, pass, David. What you got?
Let's pass. But another thing to say here, everybody was writing them off after they struggled a little bit, but they're just fine.
The fact that you have Jason Tatum go for 16 points on 5 of 15 and still like soundly beat up on a bad team is just kind of all you need to know about how top heavy talented the Celtics are compared to the rest of the NBA. Let's get out to our next game. The Philadelphia 76ers riding a little bit of a win streak, I should say. Are we buying it? Let's throw it out to Locked On Sixers for more.
2024-2025 Philadelphia 76ers are the biggest emotional roller coaster in the NBA. When you first look at the season, you think, okay, they get Paul George, they're going to be a team that gets past the second round. Then all the injuries happen, and there's conversations of tanking. Now all of a sudden, they come back, they win 4 straight, which is tied with their highest win streak of the season so far. And Tyrese Maxey, since January 6th, is the second best scorer in the NBA, right behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, come on, the Philadelphia 76ers come out on top, their 4th straight win, 117-104 against the Sacramento Kings. It wasn't just Maxey, though. He had 30 points. He's playing at that all-star level right now, but also the other contributions. I don't know. We must have had a time machine because we're looking at players like Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry coming in and having big minutes as well. Lowry finishing with 13, a plus 27 on the floor. This team is starting to click right now. 4 straight wins for the Philadelphia 76ers. They come out on top again.
All right. Shoot, drive, pass, David. What you got?
I'm going to drive here. Do you buy it? You asked me the question before. I'm asking you because I don't, because I think this season hinges on Joel Embiid. And right now they might have some chemistry. They might have a nice pattern going. But once he comes back, well, clearly this is going to be a different team. And I don't know what kind of shape or how engaged he's going to be. I'm looking at this team and they might wind up in the play-in tournament, but it won't be because they won a lot of games. It'll just be because teams like Chicago and Atlanta wind up dropping out.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. The health challenges are too much to overcome at this point. And I think knowing how Daryl Morey has operated in the past, I would be hard pressed to imagine him not heavily eyeing the ability to bottom out and potentially retain their draft pick, right? Kind of rolling the dice on those odds and opting for trying to recoup a very, very, very good asset in an incredibly deep draft later on this summer, rather than rolling the dice on trying to get an aging, injured, damaged roster to come together in time to sneak into the playoffs via, the 9th or 10th spot in the Eastern Conference, in a very top-heavy Eastern Conference, where what's your reward if you do make it through the play-in tournament? Then you're faced with the buzzsaw of either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Boston Celtics or the New York Knicks as your first-round opponent. Like, it just doesn't seem likely at all. So, no, yeah, they can enjoy their 4-game win streak. I'm not buying it for even 1 second. Let's get out to our last game of the night. The Brooklyn Nets beating up on the Charlotte Hornets with no LaMelo Ball, a 104-83 win for the Nets. This is a Nets team that's still rolling out a hodgepodge of, kind of whatever their roster is at this point, whatever the dregs they have left over. The Hornets, not a ton going on there for them with no LaMelo Ball in play. Miles Bridges leading the way, 23 points, 8 of 21 shooting. On the net side of things, Keon Johnson leading the charge, 18 points, but it took him 18 shots to get there, so not the best efficiency for him. Shoot, drive, pass. David, what you got?
Let's pass. The two teams combined for 11 less wins than Cleveland Cavaliers have on the season. That's not worth talking about. Sorry, guys.
All right, that's going to do it for our episode. Thanks so much for being here with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On Show for your favorite team. Until then, we will catch y'all on our very next game night.